Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was born in Kentucky on February 12, 1809, and he fought hard for what he believed seemed right. He grew up with very little education and was a provider for his family, since his family were not wealthy. In 1830, his family moved to Macon County in southern Illinois. He got a job working on a river flatboat hauling freight, being a shopkeeper and a postmaster after settling in New Salem. He then became involved in local politics as a supporter of the Whig Party. A Whig is a member or supporter of a British political group. Then, Lincoln worked as a lawyer for the next few years, earning a reputation as Honest Abe. In 1846, Lincoln won the U.S. House of Representatives election and became a congressman representing Illinois. He then joined a new Republican Party, which is based primarily on disagreeing with the extension of slavery into the territories. He was unsuccessful on going up against Douglas. Later, during the general election, Lincoln again faced Douglas, who represented the North, and the South, which had nominated John C. Breckinridge of Kentucky. At the same time, John Bell ran for the brand new Constitutional Union Party. The votes in the South allowed Lincoln to win most of the North. They carried on with the Electoral College, which is a process that the Founding Fathers established in the Constitution as a compromise between the election of the President by a vote in Congress and the election of the President by a popular vote of qualified citizens. Years passed, and Lincoln was then introduced to 7 southern states that had seceded from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America in March 1861. He had gotten a fleet of Union ships to supply to Fort Sumter, a seaport in Charleston, South Carolina. Still, the Confederates fired on the defense and the Union fleet. This then marked the beginning of the Civil War. Assuming a quick victory for the Union, hopes were destroyed by defeat in the Battle of Bull Run. On the night of April 14, 1865, John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Confederate sympathizer, assassinated the president. He slipped into Lincoln's box at Ford Theater in Washington, D.C., and fired his .44 caliber Derringer pistol into the back of the president's head. Although he was carried to a boarding house near the theater, he never regained consciousness and died at the age of 56, serving a short life from February 12, 1809 to April 15, 1865.
The time had come for me to put aside childish things. I would fight not with an axe, but with words and ideals. For a time, they proved a stronger weapon.
Abraham Lincoln was a man of humble beginnings who, though self-taught, rose to greatness through his many leadership qualities. He possessed qualities of honesty, integrity, and a great devotion towards the rights of the people. His commitment to the rights of individuals was a cornerstone of his leadership style. Although he possessed many characteristics of a great leader, his most significant leadership trait was his communication ability. Though he only had 1 year of formal education, he was able to master the language and use his words to influence the people as a great public speaker, debater, and humorist. His stature at 6 feet and 4 inches also made him a person to be looked up to and followed. Another part of Lincoln's skills as a great communicator was his extraordinary capacity for learning to listen to different points of view. While president, he created a work environment where his cabinet members could disagree with his decision without the threat of retaliation for doing so. He had a remarkable ability to listen to the opinions of various individuals, but he also knew when to stop the discussion and make a final decision. Even though Lincoln was a caring and compassionate man, he could be forceful and put his foot down and be very decisive. Listening to opinions and deciding is crucial to being a great leader. Lincoln's ability to control his emotions was another great trait. Even though he was known for treating those he worked with respect and tolerance, sometimes he may find himself driven to frustration and anger. So he would often channel his emotions by writing what he referred to as hot letters to the person he was agitated with. However, after finishing it, he would keep it for himself. When Lincoln lost his temper, he usually did not hold a grudge against the individual. The last leadership trait recognized that made him a great leader was his interaction with the people he represented. During the Civil War, he made many trips to the battlefields and field hospitals, meeting with troops and establishing lasting connections with them that boosted their morale. When in public, he would make it a point to try and speak to everyone and even shake their hands if possible. Taking the time to speak and interact with subordinates develops a connection between the people and their leader and serves as a motivator even in modern times. Through these leadership traits, he impacted the country, held the Union together, and rebuilt his great nation. In his second inaugural speech, he focused on this point when he said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations."
Shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Our enemies have made their exodus. Some back to Europe, some to South America and the Orient. They've seen that America shall forever be a nation of living men, a nation of free men.